So, Gonky, do you remember? I know it's been a while. Flying your combat war Talon,
MiG-28. Yep.
your MiG 28. Do you remember flying with an iPad?
Two
iPads.
Two iPads and a Garmin, whatever that thing was.
Well, eventually we stopped flying with the Garmin.
That's true.
So, in Ukraine, again, it's a place of they're just making stuff work here. Business Insider came up with an article that says iPads are helping Ukraine's pilots flying Soviet airplanes in combat missions against Russian forces, said a U.S. defense official. Ukraine's pilots are using iPads for combat missions. They are using them for wild weasel missions. It's an example of adapting Ukrainian weapons built by stitching Western and Soviet parts together. Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment, William LaPlante, told reporters of the D.C. conference last week, think about the aircraft that Ukrainians have and not even the F-16s. We have a lot of Russian and Soviet era aircraft. They're aging. He did not provide further details, but then there's a video of, and I'm not going to play the audio, but I want you to see that. Well, I am playing the audio. I don't want to play the audio. X, stop this right now. So this is from the battlefield. This dude is sitting up front, and if you told me, except for the HUD, it looks very similar to the hodgepodge cockpit that we had in the Mighty War Talon. And it just goes to show you kind of what they're making here. That looks like a little old school GPS.
Yeah.
And then you got your big old honking iPad.
Netflix.
And they're using it to shoot harms. And that's a GoPro Max, I think, as well. So there's your harm shooter. There you go. Those are pretty airplanes. The yellow, good helmets too. So they don't talk about how the integration happens in the article, but I mean, you can kind of extrapolate, right, for the systems itself. They've basically figured out a way, and we've had people talk to us about this too, where integration is tough with robust older systems. When they're older systems, they're getting the software to talk or whatever. But then if you can find a way to integrate, now it's easily programmable. Once you get something that can talk to the machinery, then it's easily programmable. And now you maybe don't need that upgrade that you thought you had, which is what they're doing. They're making do with technology, and I'm sure they're getting some assistance as well to make it work, to make the American harms work with these aircraft. But what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think, looking at this article and kind of what we experienced flying the War Talon, the whole, the normal military development procurement process is just like way too long for any real conflict, right? So, the idea of it kind of reminds me, man, honestly, of like experimental aviation vice certified aviation.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the experimental world, it's like, here's the problem. Here's the quickest, most efficient, currently best way to fix it without all the red tape and all the certification and all the cost and all the testing. And I'm not saying all the testing is bad, but I think in some instances it's probably overkill. So it's kind of, like I said, I see it as kind of like experimental style aviation in real world war fighting, which is, it's thinking outside the box, which is cool. Which we did some of that in the War Talon, which was cool, because we didn't have time.
Yeah, and so you make a good point about skipping the certification process, because we see this in the Guard Reserve. Because of how Guard Reserve money and GRIA money flows, it's easier to get in GRIA money than it is to get procurement money. And there's federal laws and stuff, how do we procure? We got to get contractors and all that stuff. For perfect examples, the F-16. The F-16 block 40, 50 at active duty bases was limited to what the normal procurement process could give them as far as software updates and everything. For the F-16 Block 30, because it was exclusively a Guard Reserve program at the test center at Tucson, They could develop their own software. They could develop their own, upgrades. Like when they went center display, when they chose the helmet, the Scorpion helmet's different than the Jahemics. They were able to kind of step aside from the different normal processes to get to market faster, and sometimes have better capability than the normal one. Another perfect example, Giggy. Remember that F-15 show where the dude, he ended up being one of the test guys for the F-15, I think at Jacksonville. And they developed a way, because an F-15 doesn't usually run with a sniper pod, targeting pod. So what they did was they hodgepodged another display on there and certified it through the Guard Reserve Test Center. So faster, cheaper, didn't go through all the wickets to get there. I mean, not perfect, like if it came out like a Block 3 Super Hornet where it comes out designed this way, but accomplishes the mission. Same thing with us in the T-38, where we get the iPads, and next thing, dude, we're flying with ADS-B pucks. Yeah. So we're using ADS-B pucks as our data link. And, I'm doing rejoins off of guys because I'm like, oh, I know where he is based off ADS-B.
Game changer.
It is. And it's just that little bit of capability that suddenly you were like, man, this thing will never work with XYZ software. And the next thing you know, you're like, holy crap, this thing is awesome. We've got this cool capability. And then the certificated, the ones that are stuck to these rules are like, hey, we want that. How do we get that? That's a cool feature we got there. So I really think it's cool that they're doing that. And it's something that they've needed to do, because how else are you going to integrate? You have to figure out a way to work with what you have, especially with how long it's taken them to get the F-16. They have to work. The mission goes on. They still have to. And in some ways, it reminds me, going full circle to the World War II stuff. This is their World War II. This Ukraine's World War II is happening right now. And those men and women are stepping up on the battlefield to make it happen with what they have.
Yeah. Politics aside, who's at doesn't matter. The people actually doing the fighting, it's like they are the ones that it's life and death for them. And it is, I think we're going to see more stuff like this, Mover, as the conflict continues. I think we're going to see a lot more of this kind of stuff. And it's, you do what you have to do with what you got. At the end of the day.
Yeah. And we don't even know what they have. Like we're basing this off of a 69-second YouTube video or X video, Twitter. We don't know what that iPad's doing. It could, it could have the poor man's data link, and it could be looking at sensors and locating SAM sites. There could be all kind of things it could be doing out there that we just don't know. But I do think it's a good thing, and it would be a lot cooler if they had integrated systems. But you make do with what you can. Yeah. Just hope the battery doesn't die.
Or if it's too hot, they will shut off. Being too hot. I had both of mine shut off, and that was my pub kit. My pub's kit was turned off due to overtemp. So
Gonky, both of them, man. Come on.